ancient cultures, such as Judaism, were up to their armpits in blood. Their temples had channels cut into the stones where gallons of blood from animals, men, women, and yes, even children would flow and congeal amongst the peasants who paid a few pennies in lieu of slicing the throat of a sacrificial victim themselves. Blood rituals have been performed worldwide since the dawn of time, and even to this day is reenacted in symbolic form via the Catholic Mass of eating and drinking the so-called body of Christ. Black magicians who advocate blood sacrifice, such as Aleister Crowley, who recommended that a 9-year-old child of above average intelligence made the ideal sacrificial candidate, are well aware of the esoteric qualities of blood and the life force. Hot blood, freshly drained from a living creature, which has recently passed through the emotionally animated arteries of the heart, actually contains a concentration of the sacred Chi life force. According to black magicians such as Aleister Crowley and Eliphas Levi, the last beat of the heart, the last breath of the victim, carry the soul into the spirit world.
Almighty and all-powerful set, Dark Darkness, King of Death, I pledge this night to thee. No! Welcome to us, sir.
What have you done to my baby?
He does not hear you. This is a state of deep hypnosis. In the name of God, you dare not. Scarcely in the name of God, unless you're a duke.
What's he going to do with her? Look.
Take me instead of her. You will, sir? You also, in preference to that unstained child.
What are you talking about? Isn't it?
Yes. The transference of soul. That of your child, or that of planet.
No!
Good. Now if our two remaining guests will permit, we may proceed. Almighty and all-powerful saint, Father of darkness, King of death, I pledge this night to thee, to do thy work, and be thy servant.
That's what you said before. Say it again.
And the blood of this child shall be
Cannot. You must. My name is going to die, Lieutenant. You must speak those words again.
The bride of chaos,
The bride of chaos,
the rider upon the beast,
the rider upon the beast.
with this knife do I draw out the blood, which is thy life.
This form of black magic circumvents the natural path of the victim's soul, which would normally rise into a higher vibratory state and take up residence in the spirit world. Instead, the life force is diverted into the body of the magician or absorbed by a demon. Once the demon has spiritually absorbed the life force of the sacrificial victim, the magician will often ask the spirit to divulge information about the past, present, or future. The shape and colour of the heart would often be studied for divination, and hundreds of temples around the world, from the Himalayas to the Mediterranean, were set up to divine information from spirits. These temple sites became known as oracles. The so-called oracles were female or androgynous psychics, usually bred from birth for their clairvoyant powers. Oracles would spend most of their time floating in underground pools, engaged in permanent trance, receiving visions directly from the spirit world. In Robert Temple's fascinating book, Netherworld, he explored the underground oracles in Italy. Here, caves and stone-lined chambers were constructed, complete with an underground man-made river, which symbolically represented the gap between the physical world and the spirit world. The man-made river at the underground oracle complex of Baia, Italy, was called the River Styx. When Freemasons and Satanists such as Benjamin Franklin and George Washington founded the government system in Washington, they oversaw the building of a giant necropolis, a temple of death, which was used to house the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Monument, and White House. This complex in Washington, D.C. is a modern replica of an ancient necropolis, based on the architecture of the underground temple complex in Baia, Italy, and also other temple sites in Greece and Egypt. Washington, D.C. also features a man-made river, like the River Styx at Baia in Italy. In ancient times, underground oracle temples were established right across the Mediterranean, most notably on the Greek islands. Here, the Book of Revelation was written on the island of Patmos, where visions and communications from spirits were given to St. John as he lay with his head inserted into a niche in the side of a cave. At Delphi and other ancient oracle sites, people would travel from all over the known world to listen to the teachings of spirits. Communications from spirits inspired the greatest authors, poets, and philosophers of the classical world. Ancient Greece and Rome are the birthplaces of philosophy. The greatest classical philosophers, such as Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates, divined information from spirits. Divination was an important part of classical life and was practiced on a daily basis. Socrates was just one of thousands of intellectuals who descended into the subterranean caverns and consulted the Oracle of Delphi. The classical world practiced many forms of divination, such as divination by lightning and thunderbolts, by the flights of birds, known as augury, by the chance words uttered by mad people, called Kledonism, and one of the most popular forms of divination was performed by examining the shape, colour, and texture of the vital organs of freshly sacrificed animals and people. Textbooks were published that were studied by the greatest scholars, which described the prophetic meanings of dreams. It was widely understood that the spirits of one's family and the spirits of the star gods would speak to you using a symbolic visual language in your dreams. An ancient book of dream prophecies written by Artemidorus inspired many of the great works of philosophy. Soothsayers, prophets, and magicians would also foretell future events from reading omens, such as the birth of two-headed calves and other genetic deformities in animals. To this day, North American shamans read good and bad omens into the birth of white bull calves. At Osborne House on the Isle of Wight, the Saxe-Coburg-Gotha royal family, under the leadership of Queen Victoria, kept a private collection of preserved, deformed animals, such as a deer with 5 legs and other multi-headed freaks of nature, which have historically always been associated with good and bad omens. In ancient Greece, future events were prophesied by virginal maidens who would hold naked rituals in forests, invoking the spirits of animals, trees, and plants, and gaze into bowls of water, reading the reflections as messages from nature spirits. This technique was used by the famous medieval Dr. Nostradamus, who would drug himself with nutmeg powder, thornapple, and belladonna, sitting for hours staring into bowls of water, which revealed apocalyptic events, which he wrote down in a series of books known as the Prophecies of Nostradamus. Dr. Nostradamus had many clients who would commission him to read the future. One of his clients was Catherine de' Medici of France, who was involved in black magic. Dr. Nostradamus accurately predicted the bloody death of the French royal family.
Children, this is the famous Dr. Nostradamus. God, I told you so much. Monsieur, this is my eldest son, Francois, the future king of France.
You're welcome, monsieur. May I introduce my wife and Queen Scotland?
I'm very honored that you receive me. This is my eldest daughter, Elizabeth.